What's up, everybody? Welcome to Listography. It is the year 1987, and we are counting down our top 5 albums of the year. 1987 was a big year for pop superstardom. You had just massive amount of hits from a couple different people. You had Bon Jovi, top of the charts with Livin' on a Prayer, which actually came out in 1986, but it was also the number one song of 1987. Aside from that, though, you had Prince, Def Leppard, Whitney Houston, U2, George Michael, INXS, Michael Jackson, Madonna, all these massive hits from sort of the biggest pop stars in the world. Really strong year for pop and rock, at least for me. We'll get into that a little later. Also going on in 1987, you had some stuff like the Iran-Contra affair, Black Monday, stock market crash, Unabomber bombing Salt Lake City, and some other stuff, I'm sure, but we don't need to get into that. No one cares. The big thing was all these pop stars with one name just dominating the charts. I think that's the important thing to remember in 1987. Any additional thoughts from you two on 1987?
Funny you said U2. That'll come into play later, possibly. I know Jason's probably got them locked in at number 1.
You know it. All right. Get into my picks. Pretty solid year, 87 for me. Lots of good stuff to choose from. These are the 5 that I narrowed it down to. I've got Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me by The Cure. This record, for me, doesn't play that well as an album. It's kind of disjointed and a little all over the place. And I almost left it off my list because of that. But there's just so many strong songs on it that I couldn't leave it off. So it comes in as a runner-up. I've also got the debut record from the Adrian Belew band, The Bears, self-titled album. Really, really cool power pop stuff, but with Adrian Belew's crazy avant-garde guitar playing. Really great record. I've also got Pleased to Meet Me by The Replacements. I might be alone in that this is my favorite Replacements record. I know most of their fans go with Let It Be or Tim, but I don't know what it is, something about this one that I really gravitate towards. I've also got Strange Ways, Here We Come from the Smiths, probably my favorite of their 4 studio albums. But my winner for 1987 by a mile wasn't even close. I've got, Cram is mouthing it, I've got You're Living All Over Me by Dinosaur Jr. Dinosaur Jr. is probably a top 5 band for me. Even though I probably prefer their records after Lou Barlow leaves the band, some of their early 90s stuff is probably my favorite of theirs. This is just a monumental record. The leap they take from their debut to this is huge. The guitar playing is unbelievable all over this thing. The playing, the sound of it, they're really going beyond their sort of hardcore roots on this record and incorporating, punk and metal and classic rock and classic songwriting. And it's just fantastic record, hugely influential to me and to many. So that's easy pick for 87 for me. Dinosaur Jr.
Good job, my friend. Good job. Knew you would go there. You didn't really have any other options knowing your tastes, but it's an amazing album. I'll be talking about it momentarily. 87 to me is absolutely loaded. Even the albums that I didn't really consider, there's some monumental ones here like Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. But the ones that I did just miss my list, like Jason had Pleased to Meet Me by The Replacements, Like a Normal Human Being, I prefer Tim and Let It Be. But this album probably does have my 2 favorite songs by The Replacements. I also was kind of, for a hot second, not really considering in the top 5, but I was like, I really do like Momentary Lapse of Reason by Pink Floyd. I know you guys aren't crazy about it, but then I looked at the list and I was like, no, there's just no way. Sign of the Times by Prince, Sister by Sonic Youth, all kind of got a good run. But my runners-up are going to be The Joshua Tree by U2, classic album, a lot of people's favorite of theirs. Probably not mine, but it's up there. You can't deny how good the hits are, and a very underrated supporting cast of tracks too. I'm also looking at Document by R.E.M. Probably maybe 1 or 2 on my R.E.M. list. Can't wait to do that remaster. I also have Hold Your Fire by Rush, which a lot of people hate, but I just love it. It's this cool, just overly silky jazz rock album that is full of hooks and pop elements, and it just slays. The playing is amazing. And it came down to 2 albums really close. Jason's winner, You're Living All Over Me by Dinosaur Jr. just misses beating out my winner, which is The Cure with Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. For a long time, Pornography was my favorite Cure album, just because I love the atmosphere of it. But then when you really start to appreciate Robert Smith individually and his songwriting and his message, I think this one takes over. I kind of get what you're saying, where it's kind of disjointed, but I don't really buy it that much, and it doesn't affect me. We talk a lot about albums being front-loaded. This one is back-loaded. And the first half, I think, is really good, and then it just leaves you with such a good feeling, such a good taste in your mouth, because the second half with Just Like Heaven, All I Want, Hot, 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 One More Time, like Cockatoo's just killer. I love it. Not a bad track on it here. I think that it's probably a little more fun and less depressing and dark as some of their other stuff. But I just think the songwriting and the fluidity of a lot of it is just amazing. And probably if we do a top 10 Cure songs list, this album would have probably 4 or 5 of them. I love The Kiss, Catch, Hey You is really cool. Just awesome. And, they never really get appreciated for the playing, but a lot of the playing on here is just awesome, especially Hot, 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 the bass line and everything. It's so groovy and so much fun and so danceable. I think this is a pretty iconic 80s record that doesn't get enough love. The Cure, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me.
Okay, that's pretty much how I thought things were going to go for the most part. I thought maybe Joshua Tree would be higher, maybe more in contention for number 1, but it's interesting. For me, this was just brutal picking between these massive pop hits that I love. In contention, didn't quite make the list. Hysteria by Def Leppard, Whitney by Whitney Houston, Whitesnake 87 by Whitesnake, all real close. They could all be on my list in a different year, but this one is just too much to pack on. And there's so many more. The Tango in the Night, Permanent Vacation, even Pleased to Meet Me was in contention. It's my favorite Replacements album. I'm with you on that one, Jason.
We got to do that list sooner or later.
But my top 5, getting to the real meat, the main course. I got Bad by Michael Jackson, which is good. It's better than good. It's great. It's fantastic. It almost might be as good as Thriller and Off the Wall. It's every song on there is pretty much perfect. 5 number 1 hits, most of any album of all time. I also have on my list Joshua Tree by U2. I love the hits. Red Hill Mining Town is my favorite U2 song. And I think the lesser known ones are just as good pretty much as the major players, like Streets Have No Name and Self and Found I'm Looking For, With or Without You. Loaded album, a winner in a lesser year. I also have Strange Ways, Here We Come by the Smiths. I think and this almost made my top spot. I think it's as good probably as The Queen Is Dead. Just awesome, lush pop. I think it's fantastic. And another runner-up, my first runner-up, I got Sign O' the Times by Prince. His last, he had some good albums after this, but this is his last classic, I think. Double album, just loaded with funk. Definitely the funkiest of his albums. It didn't have the hits. It didn't have quite the chart presence as his earlier stuff, but it's just from front to back, it's really great. You Got the Look, If I Was Your Girlfriend, just some really kind of weird, cool stuff. Just a great album, but, and it's almost cliche. Everyone knows what it's going to be. It's Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. I mean, you know the songs. The hits are great. Sweet Child of Mine, Welcome to Jungle, Paradise City. But then there's Mr. Brownstone and Night Train and Rocket Queen. And it's just so kind of dirty and greasy and completely unlike Hysteria and Whitney and Bad and Kick and Faith. It doesn't sound like really an 80s album. It sounds almost modern. It sounds great. It's raw, it's fast, it's punky, which I really like. Usually when these bands break in with these albums like Appetite, where it's kind of out of nowhere, the next album's always kind of like slowed down. They get bogged down in epics and, longer piano stuff. This is just balls to the wall, just good old fashioned raunchy guitar. Phenomenal album. It's my 1987 album of the year. And as much as I'd like it to be something else, a little more interesting, can't do it. So Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, my number one, and that's 1987.
I saw that coming for you, but I'm glad you got to stick to your roots. I mean, what else can you do? I mean, I'm not a huge Guns N' Roses fan. Chinese Democracy is probably my favorite Guns N' Roses album. I couldn't say that with a straight face. No, it would be Appetite. Yeah, I think the reason why I don't like him that as much as other people is I think Slash is a tremendously overrated guitar player. I think he's fine. I don't think he deserves all of the hoopla that he gets. And a couple of the hits I don't like at all. Like I don't really like Sweet Child of Mine, and I kind of hate Paradise City. I really dig Mr. Brownstone and Night Train, and Rocket Queen, but some of the hits I really don't like. I love those 3 tracks, but I don't know.
I think it's good that you got Document on your list. I think we were about to have a revolt in the comments section. We keep snubbing R.E.M. So I'm glad you got them in there.
Yeah, I love R.E.M. probably the most among the 3 of us. I think Document is kind of where I get into the bread and butter of what I really like by them, like 87 to like 94. I like Monster a lot more than people don't do, so I've got a little bit longer period to pull that off. Jason, I know you really don't like Monster at all or some of the early 90s stuff, but yeah, that's the thing. Like when we do our 80s recap video, like we were talking about in the 70s, like with me with Yes, and some other bands that I love that just never really got there. And so far it has been R.E.M. for me. But yeah, I mean, I didn't force it in there. I mean, it was an easy pick for my top 5. So.
All right. Well, anything else? 87. We're getting to the end of the 80s here. We're inching closer to grunge, and I know I'm excited in my flannel shirt here. And I think we're all anxious to get to the 90s. I think we're a little tired of the 80s. I think it's time to really rock out, get a little grungy, but a couple more years to go.
Yeah, Dinosaur Jr. kind of marks the beginning of just the guitar takeover back in and the angst.
In the meantime, like the video if you liked it, give us your top 5, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. What else? Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And that's it. We'll see you next time on Listography.